Hey everybody, Jamin Shively here, hanging with my buddies Jack and James, and we are the three J's today, and we are we're talking about the proposal that the group of 100 groups that are most committed to humanity coming together in conversation, that we come together and put together a proposal, something like what I'm about to read right now, which in turn is focused on, which is an invitation, a proposal and an invitation to go out to the million or so groups that are committed to the conversation, to varying degrees. And the proposal or the invitation is that all million of us progressive groups that are in conversation, that we put ourselves up on a common star chart, for lack of a better word. I use star chart because the star chart has literally millions of stars that are tracked and identified and everything. So, why not? And that can be, Transformer style with a click of a button converted to a calendar, where you see a calendar of all the upcoming conversations, meetings, Zoom meetings, etc., Clubhouse meetings, doesn't matter what platform. I use Zoom because it's probably the most popular, that are coming up. So you got star chart and you got calendar and you got whatever else you got, right? It's a big, massive database of all these different million groups and their scheduled conversations and unscheduled conversations. Some of them just have 24/7 Zoom rooms like this one, and you can just kind of look at the star chart and say, show me which ones are happening now, which ones are in meeting right now, and of those, which ones can I join? Some of them are open to everyone. Others are invite only, like Humanity Rising is a perfect example. It's invite only if you want to speak, but anyone can be on there chatting. And that, of course, gave rise to the chat people, which is open to everyone, et cetera, et cetera. But anyway, so the group of 100 of us who are most committed to the conversation, to humanity coming together in conversation, putting out an invitation or a proposal to the million plus groups, progressive groups, nonprofits, groups like this one, et cetera, that are out there. So here's the proposal. The proposal goes like this. And it comes in basically 5 parts. So it's a 5-part proposal. Each one is just like a little paragraph. Part 1, given the multiple urgencies of this moment, which some people are calling a polycrisis. You got global warming, extinction, loss of habitat, droughts, all these go together, of course. Nuclear war, nuclear power plants, and nuclear waste, and the threat of nuclear facilities meltdowns, food and water shortages, refugee crises, political, financial crises of the commons, poverty, concentration of media and message, which in turn has given rise to tribalism, racism, and other forms of separation. I could go on and on, but let's just call it the polycrisis. So part 1 basically says, given the polycrisis, right? Part 2 then becomes, and given that the combined, what I'm going to call progressive response to the polycrisis has been, well, less than effective, shall we say. Okay? That's part 2 of the invitation. Part 3, we therefore propose, actually, there should be a part 2.5. Reminds me of the movie Naked Gun 2.5. But anyway, let me add here as we're talking. Part 2.5, and given that there are more than 1 million nonprofits, and those are organized nonprofits, therefore much more than probably several million groups that are in conversation, progressive groups that are in conversation.
Well, Yeah, when I mentioned that Hawkins said a million, I didn't say that they were all nonprofits.
Yeah, no, I get
I
it.
mean, I didn't.
I get it. I get it.
Okay.
I get it. Yeah, the million nonprofits, that data point came from a professor of sociology I was in a meeting with down at the Sierra Club in California some
Oh,
years ago.
really?
And he said, yeah, there are over 1 million nonprofits with combined membership of over 1 billion people. So if you take the entire nonprofit sector and add it all up, it's a superpower with over 1 billion members. But he said, and these are his words, but it is the most dysfunctional superpower on the planet, right? I mean, each of these nonprofits in their own way, shape, or form are all basically swimming in the direction of saving, healing, and transforming life on Earth, but we're so fragmented, right? And that is part of the heart of the reason why part 2, I'll repeat it, given that the combined progressive response to this polycrisis has been, well, less than effective, shall we say, right? Well, the reason we're less than effective is because we are less than united, right? So we are less than united, we're less than effective, and part 3 of the invitation says, we therefore propose the following question and challenge. Imagine we put it out as a question and a challenge, because that often gets people's interest piqued, right? Oh, you want to hear my answer? Thank you. I've got an answer for you. Thank you for asking, kind of thing. We therefore propose the following question and challenge specifically to those progressive leaders and their communities who are already in conversation, which again, probably numbers on the order of 1 million, you know. That's part 3, the question and challenge. Part 4, what is the question or challenge? Here's the question or challenge. What milestone at the level of humanity coming together, in other words, addressing this separation issue, this dysfunctional superpower syndrome that we've got, right? What milestone at the level of humanity coming together, the superpower coming together, could be more valuable or more important or more urgent than us, again, the progressive communities that are already in conversation, coming together in a vastly more hyper-connected, integrated, united way, shape, or form than we already are, which is kind of the opposite of that, truth be told, right? In fact, so many of the nonprofits and even groups are there's so much infighting, there's so much separation, as we've all talked about, right? On Friday night with Ray Kowalczyk, James, you were there at the time. He talked about this infighting problem, and he talked about it as he coined the term the messy left. The messy left. Let's face it, you know, we're messy. We progressives, we're messy, right? We don't have our shit together. So anyway, all that was a little bit a very loquacious form of saying, hey, what could be more urgent, more important than for the 1 million plus of us groups that are out there coming together in a vastly more connected, hyper-connected, if you will, integrated, united way, shape, or form. What could be more urgent than that? Right?
Well, I think most of the people, well, first, just a quick question, then I want to go on, but so of course, a lot of nonprofits aren't progressive. I mean, there's, so was there any way to kind of tell whether or not and this is not something that requires a long answer or anything, but
Yeah.
did he do something to figure out that these million that he's talking about are all progressive?
No, that's a good point. Let's say that of the million, I mean, what do you like? 500,000 are progressive, 200,000, but again, those are just nonprofits. Groups, I mean, walk down the street to
Yeah,
the
there's a
cafe
lot.
and you'll find
Well,
a
the
group.
groups, David Hawkins did check to see whether or not they were progressive, and he did come up with over 1 million,
So
but they weren't all nonprofits.
there you have it. So again, the question or challenge is there anything more urgent, more important, more critical right now at this moment in history of extreme polycrisis? Is there anything more important or more urgent than bringing these million progressive groups that are already in conversation internally, bringing us together in some
Well,
way?
I think we got to kind of look at is that most of these groups already agree to that. It's not like they haven't come up with that idea, or it's not like they haven't thought about it, but they have not been able to put it together. And I think in a lot of cases probably haven't even put a lot of effort into making it happen. So I mean, we gotta do what you're talking about and deal with well, what's more important, because there are some that don't have that, and we want to make sure that's clear. But I think we need to go to the next step, and how we get that to happen among a group of people, a large group of people and organizations that know that they need to do that, and yet are not don't seem to be even very focused on making it happen, and certainly haven't made it happen.
Yeah. It's kind of like we've all got the Beatles song, "Come Together Right Now." We've all got that playing in the background while we carry on with our infighting.
But I will say that there are a lot of people out there who seem to feel, and I think they're right, that we're making progress on that. That there's more of that's happening, and I don't think there's any doubt about that. That it is getting better, but when you look at the circumstances and what's going on, we got to get better at a much faster pace.
And that's the key. And that's the key. Something needs to shift, because for all of little Johnny's efforts staying at the study hall after school and everything, he's still bringing home a report card full of Fs, full of failing grades. That gets back to point number 2. The combined progressive response to the polycrisis has been, well, less than effective, shall we say. Okay, that's the bottom line. Right. So yeah, sure, incremental progress may be being made, but we're still way down here at the early stages of an exponential that really needs to take off. And James has his hand up. Go for it, James.
Yeah, nice one. As Jack said there, like there's I'm sure as well, like there's plenty of these groups out there that know that this is what we need to do, because it's the old adage, like, separate you're weak, together you're strong. So I mean, anyone will know that. But the problem is, of course, why it's not happening, and the reason of the fact that it needs to happen now exponentially almost, because of the fucking what we're up against, you see. And there's plenty of them out there thinking this, and as Jack said, they just haven't got around to it, or can't figure out how to do it, or they just never seem to do it. And the reason for that, and quite simply is because of all these different groups that are out there, and they're all working towards a similar goal, similar goal. But they're all tunnel focused on what they're doing themselves. And the key to getting them to work together is to see that the issues are all of our problems together, and that only together we can do it, like work together. So together we're strong, in other words. The fact that you said, like, what the response to the different existential threats facing us so far, like, and the response to even just the attitude, even to some of them. Some people just don't even believe in global warming. Let's face it. Like, some people don't even realize the Earth is moving as an actual rock moving through space. You know what I mean? Literally, that's the truth. Like, so, we can only get through to a certain amount of people anyway. And let's face it, maybe those million groups or whatever out there, those progressive groups and non-progressive groups, but they're non-profit, they're working for the same idea, whatever, even if they're not non-profit, even if they're making a few bob over it themselves, but they're still trying to work towards the same ideas and goals. Like, it doesn't matter, they're in the conversation, and that's the main thing, as you said yourself earlier, is that the main thing is that they're in the conversation. They're in the progressive conversation to go forward as a species that we should have been doing a long time ago, you know what I mean? Especially since the birth of the internet. The internet was born for this particular reason, for what we're striving for towards now. The internet should have been used for that right from the get-go. But unfortunately, the way things are in this world, they get taken over and manipulated and fucking, poisoned. But no, it's only because everyone has a computer now in their fingertips. Even children know with their mobile phones, it is a computer in their hand, like, you know what I mean? So the world is at everyone's fingertips. The only thing about that is that the world now has become a mass of fucking confusion. A massive confusion, because now there's so much misinformation out there and there's so much availability to access it, whatever takes your fancy that you're interested in, and whatever stage you are in your life, whether you're a child, a teenager, an adolescent, or an adult, and how gullible or so susceptible you are at that particular time. When you look at different things on the internet, you get sucked into different situations, different scenarios, and different beliefs and different belief systems. And therefore, that's why the whole fucking planet now is screwed up. Sorry for the language. But the point is that we already are aware that there's enough of us out there that are aware of the scientific facts, the reality of our situation, the geopolitical situation, the unnecessary need for this world hunger and everything else. And we know ourselves, like, that there actually is no reason for it other than the fact that it's after being created by us, by those that we gave over our agency to, basically. So believing that they were doing the right thing. And the gullible sheeple out there now still believe that these people are doing the right thing, and they just vote in a different fucking government every 4 years, who are made up of the same bunch of muppets that were thrown out a couple of years before that. It happens every country, everywhere. You know what I mean? We need to forgetting the political situation. What I'm saying is, that's another thing. Once you come together and get these like-minded people together, they can persuade the sheeple alone, like, of the reality of the situation. When you know that your house is on fire, you're going to get the fuck out of the house. Like, you're not going to stop around to think about it. You know what I mean? So people won't act together until they realize the truth or the reality of the situation. So how do you get people out of their tunnel vision? How do you get these groups out of their tunnel vision? I believe Jack is right there in what he's saying. They are starting to come around to it now. And why are they starting to come around to it now? Because they can't but avoid the realities of the situation anymore. The realities of the possibility of a nuclear war now bearing down on us. The realities of the fact that global food shortages are on our doorstep because of these wars and everything else, and global warming and everything else. Because of the brutal weather in California and what's going on there up the Midwest, and what's going on with the heat waves in Europe and everything. You can't ignore these things anymore. So even the sheeple now are aware of that something's radically wrong. You know what I mean? They're also sick to death of the way that they're being treated by the government, because they're finding them out every day to be nothing but hypocrites, fucking criminals, and basically, out to line their own pockets, and will lie to them every time. So, it's all kind of culminating into one particular thing anyway. It's all going in our direction. All it needs now is for those million people who are already and have been in those conversations, who are well aware of what's going on at the moment, to the crystallization of it is to get them to realize that now we need to come together, join our forces to, explain the reality to the other groups that are out there and get them on board with it as well. And before you know it, you will already have a significant amount of the population of the planet, which is big enough to cause a shift, because the sheep will follow along once everybody else is telling them what the truth is. And everything else will fall into place. We don't have to fix everything. We just have to figure out how to get that one part of the mechanism in motion to get the rest going. And that's what it is. Like, how do we convince this million people or this million other conversationists out there, or other people who have in these groups? How do we convince them that that's? I don't think we have to convince them. I think they already know, as Jack said, they already realize this. They're not stupid. They know it themselves. But we need someone to fucking pull them together. You know what I mean? I don't know who that is. I don't know. I think Chief Phil Lane is a great way of doing it, and I think Kindred Spirits is a great way of doing it. I know myself that it is only through story and through the heart that you can touch people. And when you do that, you get their attention. And when you have their attention through a beautiful story, you can explain a lot to them during that story, and then make them realize the realities of their situation and the reality of the sense of going forward together, not separated. You know what I mean? So I think, like, that's why I say, like, time is up against us, but we don't have time to go around in circles anymore with ideas and juggling different ideas. We've been doing all the juggling with all the ideas for the last 3 years now, and they've all culminated to this point in time, liquid and lightning our way together. And with the plans that we have for Ireland now next year with Chief Phil and the rest of the First Nations, we have a couple of months to work on that, and I believe that we should put a great effort into it to make sure that we have venues set up, publicity set up, fucking press there that will be covering it, get international press on it, and really what we're telling the people, the Irish people and the First Nations people, all First Nations people around the world, and the Irish diaspora around the world, and the other nations, is what it is. What we're doing is teaching by example, showing by example. Teaching by example is always the best way to go. But we're doing it by getting into the hearts of people first, and then showing them that what we're doing is in complete contrast to the madness that we're heading down, and the madness and the trail that we're heading down now at the moment, being led by our world leaders. Anyway, enough said. Sorry, Jack, carry on. You have your hand up.
Yeah, I didn't want to interrupt you though, but yeah, I guess what I'm saying is I do kind of have to go, but I was wondering, Jamie, did you finish your I'm not sure I heard part 5 of your
Sure. Part 5, and thank you for asking, basically says, it's kind of a big footnote, but part 5 basically says that so that from this milestone, let's say we all do come together in conversation, we get these million different groups to populate a common star chart, a common universal calendar. And actually those two things really helped me to crystallize it. So thanks both of you for being in this meeting so that we could crystallize this. That's just a milestone, us coming together in conversation, right? Part 5 says, so that beyond this milestone, once we achieve this milestone, then we can better organize so that the best ideas and insights bubble to the top, and so that either new groups can form or existing groups can get the reinforcement and the support and the membership that they need to go from ideas into action, right? So you could sort of think of it as a 3-stage process. The first milestone is we got to come together. If we're going to do anything, we got to do it together. So let's come together, star chart, universal calendar, whatever your analogy, okay? Stage 2, the best ideas bubble to the top. Stage 3, groups form and grow around those best ideas and get into action. There's your formula. Easy as ABC. Right?
well, there you go.
Now, one final footnote is that, and this addresses some of the some of the issues around maybe why it's not happening or whatever. The group of 100 have to be 100 people who are committed to this invitation going out to the million, right? And it may go in stages. Maybe from the group of 100, we go to 1,000, and then from 1,000 to 10,000, from 10,000 to 100,000, and so on. But consider this. Anyone who's a candidate for the group of 100, we go to them, consider that there are 3 possible responses. Just consider this, 3 possible responses. One, kind of cynical, people have been talking about this for not just for years, for decades, okay? And it's just not happening. And so, nice try there, Jack, Jamin, and James. Nice try, but it ain't going to happen. And I got to get back to this quarter's balance sheet for my nonprofit for-profit. Right? Okay. A second response is, yes, love it. We're in. Right? That's the response we want. A third response, not to be confused with the second response, but a third possible response is, hey guys, we are already doing it. Subtext, fuck you. Right? We're already doing it. So piss off, little boys. We've been doing it for years and we're just about there. So if you want to sign up here and, pay us some money, great, we'd love sign up. But it's basically, it's right here, baby, is response number 3. And I say not to be confused with response number 2. Response number 2 says, hell yes, I'm in. Let's form the group of 100 and let's put out the invitation. That's the answer we're looking for. If it's either of the other 2, the other 3, the cynical response, it's impossible, or it's all happening right here, baby, so come right here and fuck you guys. Those responses, no, you're not, that's not who we want in the group of 100. We want people who say, hell yes, and yes, I'm in. And we want 100 true believer groups, nonprofits, whatever, networks, organizations, whatever stripe they come under. But we want true believers that, yes, we want to be together with the other 100 groups, and let's put out the invitation to the million. So that's what I have to say.
All right. Well, I guess we'll talk again before too long.
But look at how far we've come since last Friday. In 4 days, we met 4 days ago. And we were kind of flailing around then. Remember, as kids, we used to do what we called elephant fighting. We were kind of flailing around, but now we've got some hypersonic missiles. So,
all right. Well, I want to see some explosions then.
Well, let's make it happen. Well, come on Friday, and because we can bring this conversation to the Martin Luther King folks or not, I can talk about this with Chief Phil because he's asking us to present. So what if Kindred Spirits Ireland presents pretty much what we just said, and fortunately have it recorded right here?
Well, are they already into that plan that you have, the Ireland people?
Well, James is the leader of the Ireland people, so ask James.
Well, I guess James is. I don't need to ask him, I don't guess. Well, good, James. Well, I'm glad to hear that. So,
it's not just me. Chief Phil Lane is very much well into it as well, and along with all the other First Nations. When he said he was down with Mexico just before Christmas, that they unanimously agreed that they want to work with the Irish nation. So, that's a great honor and privilege for the Irish people, and the majority of them are unaware of that honor that's been, given to them. So. That's what I'm talking about, creating a beautiful story that touches your heart. And I know how to get to the Irish people is through their hearts, and then, through their logical mind, logical way of thinking. When you put the reality and the facts on the table, I mean, one thing about the Irish people, I suppose, same as anyone else, they don't like the fucking wool being pulled over their eyes at all. You know what I mean? So, I just believe that it'll be a beautiful story. And what we're going to build is stronger connections with the Irish communities and the First Nations communities, not just North American First Nations communities, but First Nation communities around the world, and try and build sister communities and use that as an example to the other nations around the world that we are all, as Chief Phil Lane says, all one human family. And if now above any time is the time we need to come together. And that's why what we're encouraging now is for all of those, as Jamin has said, all of those transformational groups that are out there now working for the greater good to save the planet, like, and end war and everything else. It's now time for all of us to come together. That would be the kind of essential message out of it, like. And I think that will give us a good, the whole experience will give us a great platform to get that message out. And the common sense will land with those who have common sense.
All right, there's too little of it, too little common sense, but all right, guys, well, unless you have a last word, I'm heading out. I think.
My last word is congratulations to the three of us for this meeting today and what we're recording right now, because we're now breaking it down into parts. Boom, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Milestones 1, 2, and 3, that are parallel to those 5 main parts of the invitation. There's 5 main parts of the invitation, and out of that you distill 3 main phases. But we've also distinguished that whenever we're going to recruit for the group of 100, to be aware that there's 3 categories that they can fall into. And there's only one of those 3 that we're interested in. So that way we get to filter out anything that's negative or oppositional to what we're doing and filter through only those that are really on board. So I think we're really refining it and distilling it down to ultimately a 1-minute pitch. Boom, 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 boom. Here's what it's all about. Are you in or are you out? Simple as that. And that's how we build the group of 100. And then from there, everybody invite 10 other groups that you think are suitable, have the the enrollment conversation, and let's go from 100 to 1,000. And then we just keep multiplying by 10. I mean, how hard can that be? Really, honestly, think about it. Anyway, kudos to us. I'm really glad we recorded this. Love you guys. Jack, have a great day. James and I will carry on, and we'll see you soon.
Yeah, you guys have a great.
Oh, it looks like he hit the button.
He's gone before he can do it.
That's okay. He got his point across. Anyway, shall we keep recording or take a pause from recording?
Yeah, take a pause.